This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we're going to be piping buttercream sweet peas. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. For our sweet pea flowers, we're going to make two colors. We're using American style buttercream for both, and we're using the following liquid gel colors: neon bright pink, lemon yellow, and finally some royal blue. And sweet peas come in a lot of colors. We're making ours pink with little green stems, but you can make them any color you want to. So I'm going to start by making my pink. I've got a little bit of my white buttercream in the bowl, and I'm just going to do some really big specks of pink. I want to get kind of a nice, vibrant, medium tone with this pink. So not super dark. I don't want to go for magenta, but also not pastel. We'll just give this a mix around. Add more color if we need to. We're just looking for a nice shade of pink with some brightness to it. It's just a little bit pastel still, so let's go nice big specks. There we go. You can see that color's really starting to mix around. Almost where I want it, just a little more. There we go. So there we have a nice medium tone pink. It's got a little hint of that brightness to it. It's gonna make a nice cheerful little sweet pea. Our second color is going to be some green, and I want to go a little more towards the yellow than the blue with this. So I'm starting with just a little bit of my white buttercream, and I'm just going to do more specks of yellow than of my royal blue. So I'm going to just start with 4 yellow and 2 blue and see what I get. And I haven't made very much green because for practice, I'm just using it for the calyx and kind of the start of the stem. But if you're going to put these on a cake, definitely make some more green, just so you have something to do stems and leaves with as well. I like where this is going. I think we just want to make it a little darker so it reads well against the other color that we made. There we go. Starting to get into that kind of grass green, leaf green territory, and that's just where I want to be. We're going to use 2 bags for this flower. We're using both 12-inch disposable decorating bags fitted directly with the tips. For my pink, I'm using a 124K. This one is one of those nice, narrow Korean tips, and it's going to give us lovely, delicate petals for our sweet pea. For my green, I'm using a number 4 tip, so a nice, large, plain, round tip. Let's review the techniques that we're going to use for our sweet pea. First thing we're going to do is create a little support mount, and we're going to use our 124K for this. We're going to hold it straight up and down right on top of the surface of our flower nail, and we're just going to squeeze and move side to side a couple of times. And that's going to build up almost a little teardrop shaped mound that's going to be perfect for piping the back petal of our sweet pea over. It's just going to give it enough height that we can build it up and give it a little bit of a curve, but not too much. And if you view it from the back, it'll actually have a little ruffle pattern, so it adds a little extra detail if any of your flowers are viewed from the back. So it's a nice little touch. Really easy to do, only about a 1/4 inch wide, so just a tiny wiggle back and forth as you move up just a little bit. For the actual petals, the first one we're going to do is a nice arc-shaped petal. So we want to start with the slightly fatter end of that tip towards the middle of our flower nail, and we want to just pull a nice slow arcing motion. So the back of the bag will end up kind of at 3 o'clock. The whole thing's going to be at 45-degree angle, and we want to go nice and slow because we want to allow the petals to just ruffle at the end. So if you go slow when you're moving with one of these, it creates more ruffles. If you go quicker, nice straighter petal. The other thing that you can do rather than moving the bag is actually just hold in place, squeeze, and spin your nail slowly. So for this one, you can really do whichever you prefer. But if you're moving the actual bag, you're probably going to start with the back end around 1:30 and end up around 3 o'clock. If you're just going to spin your nail, I would start just at 3 o'clock. It's nice and comfortable hold and just spin slowly so you get a nice ruffle. After we do our arc petals, we're going to do some upright petals. For these, we're going to hold our bag in a little bit of a different position. It's going to be a 45-degree angle and it's going to be towards 6 o'clock. So the back end of your bag is going to kind of be pointing directly towards the center of your own chest or your heart. And we're just going to do a little squeeze with the bottom fat end touching. So just squeeze, let it ruffle. So let it come out and do a little wiggle, and then we're going to pull away while still squeezing. So you can see this gives us a nice, beautiful little petal that has a nice little bit of wave and ruffle to it, has some style, it's nice and elegant, and that's going to give us these beautiful little upright petals for our sweet peas. And finally, with our green, we're going to do a little calyx, and it's going to act a bit as almost like a little bit of a stamen and be up on our flower and trailing off of it. So for this one, we're using our number 4. We're essentially doing a shell, but with a plain round tip. So you just want the back end of the bag pointing in whatever direction you're going to create the tail for your shell. So if you're comfortable with them, do them off to the side of your flower nail. So just lift up, let it balloon over, and pull and drag. And you can see that makes that nice tapered teardrop shape. If it's more comfortable, you can always do them towards yourself. But it's the same motion. I often like doing them off to the side because then I can see what the frosting is doing and I'm not blocking my own view with the bag. So just keep that in mind. The actual direction you're pulling doesn't really matter. It's just that the back of the bag is lined up with the direction that you're pulling always when you're creating your little shells. Now let's review how we're going to combine the techniques we just went over to create our sweet pea blossom. We're going to start out with our 124K and we're going to pipe that support mound. It's going to disappear on us, so we don't have to worry exactly about how it looks. Just get it kind of set up in the middle of your flower nail. Next, we're going to reorient our bag so that we can pipe that nice big ruffled arc petal right on top of it. This is going to allow it to kind of curve over and mound up in the center and give our flowers a little bit of depth and dimension. We're going to switch to our bag of green with the number 4, and we're going to pipe the calyx right on the middle of that sweet pea. So we'll start kind of in the middle of the petal vertically and horizontally. So we're doing that nice little shell and tapering off the end. This will also cover up any little bit of that support mound that's peeking out the bottom on you. We'll switch back to our 124 and we're going to do our little upright petals. And we want to line them up so that there's one on either side of that calyx. It'll be partially enclosing it at the bottom, and you want to pull along the same angle on each side as the taper of that little shell you did for your calyx. That way it's going to kind of enclose and cover it up at the bottom, and you'll just have a little bit of green peeking out the center, and you'll have these beautiful ruffly petals on the sides. So these are beautiful, simple flowers. They're really pretty easy to do. They have a lot of natural ruffling to them, which makes them look more complicated and difficult than they actually are. So they're really great introduction if you're new to using the Korean tips, especially the 124K. To start with, we're going to be on our 2-inch flower nail. I've got my bag with my pink and my 124K ready to go. I'm going to just be right here on the surface, and I'm gonna do a little wiggle with the bag straight up and down. And that's gonna create a nice little sport mound that you can see, if we see it from the back end, has that cute little ruffle to it. Now I've reoriented my bag so the back end is off towards 3 o'clock, and I'm really going to use the spinning action of my nail for this petal, our nice soft arc. The fat end of my tip that's going to make the center is off on the bottom left side of that mound, and we're just going to start squeezing. Go nice and slow so that it ruffles over the top and kind of folds down until you get all the way around with that arc to the other side. So we want to start on the left bottom side of that mound over to the right bottom side. And you can see it ruffles over and really encloses that mound and gives them a nice soft arc shape. For our green, we've got our number 4 for our calyx, and we're going to start. There's a little bit of that mound exposed in the center, and we're just going to cover it up with this calyx. So just a little back, pull up, let it go over, and then pull down and away. And you can see that creates a nice little calyx and the starting of a stem. Now we're going to make those upright ruffled petals. I've got my 124K. I'm going to just place the bottom edge of that tip, holding it upright, bags at 45 degrees, and I actually find it easiest to pipe them directly towards myself, but that means I hit the mic with the back of the bag, so I'm just turning it off to an angle so it's a little easier to see and so you don't get any weird sounds. And I'm just going to squeeze, hold in place for a minute, and then pull towards that little calyx. And you can see that gives me a nice upright ruffle. It's nested right next to that calyx, which is giving it just a little bit of support. And we're pulling along and mimicking the angle of that little tail to help enclose it. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. So just turn your nail however you need to line it up so that you can see well, but just hold and squeeze until you get a nice ruffle, and then just squeeze and pull. And you can see then we get a nice, beautiful little sweet pea that's perfect for topping any cake. They're wonderful for spring and summer creations, and you can make them in a wide variety of colors. That's all for this lesson. If you enjoyed making sweet peas with us, try some of our other videos in our flowers series. We've got some really beautiful and simple ones like our basic rose, and some really great complex ones that'll give you a bit more of a challenge like our dahlia flower. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.